Hello, everyone. I want to talk about some films today. So, I saw two movies in the past couple days, and this episode is going to be about the first one. I saw it last night, SuperGirl. I want to share my thoughts, reaction, and I'm coming to this from the viewpoint of a fan of just not only comic books but just movies in general. I have done some screenwriting in the past, and so when I go out and watch films, it's definitely from that point of view, like how is the film written. So over the next two episodes of the podcast, that's really what I'm going to be talking about, like how these films were written. For Supergirl, I came to the film with a certain expectation because this is the James Gunn version of the DC universe, and he has a certain style with all of his films. Meaning that I came into Supergirl thinking this is the style that I'm going to get. I believe he was the director or executive producer, if not both, for Guardians of the Galaxy, and everyone knows like the type of humor that the Guardians movies had. And I believe he directed Superman. I don't want to call it a reboot, but what we got last year. And I saw that in theaters as well. So I came into this from the viewpoint of it's going to have his style. Now, am I a fan of his style? Not necessarily, because it's very, how can I? There's going to be crude humor. There's going to be a brashness to the film that can easily get out of control. And I noticed with the Superman film from last year, there was that in it, but there were also pockets that I could grasp onto. There were certain aspects of the film that were very relatable, but then there were certain parts of the film where it was just this very much, it was like in your face kind of a brashness to the film. And so, like I said, coming into Supergirl, I knew that was going to be a part of the film. And then even if you didn't see Superman last year, you saw the Supergirl trailers, I knew that was the direction that they were going. They introduced Supergirl at the end of Superman from the last film. And she kind of had this, she arrived drunk. So that's when we first saw her. She was drunk. She had been spending all of her time on a planet or planets that have a red sun. So on red suns, her power would be taken away so that she could get drunk. Her dog, Crypto, was pretty wild, kind of out of control. And the Crypto was basically featured in Superman of last year. So that kind of thread is going to continue into Supergirl. And certainly in Supergirl, there are pockets of the movie I could really grasp onto that I like. Like the actress is great. She really did carry the film. I haven't seen Millie, I think it's Millie Alcott, in anything else, but she had that presence where she could carry the film as the main character. I'm gonna go into, let's see if I can pull up the reaction here. Now, in terms of the reaction, I'm really not going to get into sort of the political parts of it, but let me get my camera in here. So this is Rotten Tomatoes. And like I said, I'm not going to get into all of the other, there's so much conversation, I call it, around the actress and things that she said during the promotion of the film. I didn't get into that a bunch. I've heard things, read some headlines, but I didn't dive into it. My main focus is it a good movie? You know, is it a good film? Right now, you have the, you know, like the official critics of it. It's at 56%. The fan reviews is at 76%. And with the 76, I pretty much agree with that. I pretty much agree with that. I think that the issue that I have with the film is just the depth. I feel like I said before, the actress she fits the part, right? The issue would be the approach, the tone of the film is not for everyone. I think that the sort of James Gunn approach to the tone of films, I just don't think that's for everyone. It worked perfectly fine, and it worked really well in Guardians of the Galaxy, but I don't think that it works for Superman. I don't think it works for Supergirl, just because those characters they're just in a different world or a different space where I don't think you can tell the story in the same style as Guardians of the Galaxy and still be successful. Guardians was a cast of characters where that was just where they were, right? They fit into this, I don't know if odd is the right word, but you can get away with some of the crudeness, some of the brashness. But I think the Guardians cast, they had a lot more humor, and it was even them, it was more lighthearted. So it was easier for the audience to embrace. With Superman and then Supergirl, with these films, it's harder to, like the characters, the people around the main characters are more brash. Supergirl, especially at the beginning, is more brash herself. And it's hard, it makes it harder for a broader audience to embrace the character. And for the broader audience, I don't know what, like their expectations were. But that's where I land. Just it's hard to embrace the character, embrace the main characters, embrace the story overall. And I do want to point out something where and I'm trying to figure out without losing my thought of what I really want to say. Every character, especially the main character, needs depth, right? So when you have a new character like Supergirl, like we're not familiar with the character, she had a cameo in the Superman film of 2025. So I felt like in the Supergirl film, it would have been really helpful if we would have, like, been introduced to her, like who she is at the beginning of the film, because they didn't tell a straightforward linear story. It kind of, we started in the middle of what was going on, and then they kind of put pieces of what was supposed to be the beginning. They put that sporadically, in towards the middle of the film. And I think we really needed to be introduced to the character first, or a little bit sooner in the film, to help us understand how her tone, her personality, her brashness, her willingness just to, go out and get drunk all the time. It's like we didn't understand for a good portion of the beginning of the film, like, why is she the way that she is? And then when we had these flashbacks into her past and found out how she got to, where she was in the present, then it made more sense. But I feel like by that time, I don't want to say that they lost the audience's attention, but it was just, it was a lot. It was a lot. Because, again, with the tone of the film, I feel like they went out of their way to just be the opposite of Superman. And Supergirl talked about it herself. And in the film, her name's Kara. She basically describes Superman as nerdy. He has a good heart. He sees the good in everyone. It comes across like he's his goody two shoes, and they wanted to make Supergirl's character, I don't want to say the polar opposite of that, but she's definitely the opposite of that. And I just don't know I don't think that was necessary for them to do. Because when they showed the flashbacks of her past, and they showed that she was, and these are all spoilers I'm going into, but you get towards the middle of the film, and we see where she came from and how she ended up getting to Earth and stuff like that. That part of the film, when we saw that when she was a little girl, when she met Crypto, when she was on her home planet, when she was around her parents, and we saw what happened through that whole thing, that was the best part of the film. It was by far the best part of the film. I don't know why they couldn't make that, in terms of tone, they could have made that the entire film. Or I would say like 80-20 split, 75-25 split. But that wasn't the case. They went 75-80% of the brashness, and then 20% of, this is the heart of the story. This is the heart of the character, the heart of who this 23-year-old woman is. And I felt like we needed more of the heart of who she was presented in the correct tone than what we got through majority of the film. It felt like they went out of their way with the crude humor and all it's just like, I don't know how well people can connect with that, And the crazy thing is, by the end of the film, I still like the characters. I like Millie as Supergirl. The co-star, let me see if I can bring her up. I don't know if I can bring her up. But the co-star was more difficult for me to grasp onto, because her character seemed out of place. Now, Crypto was not in the film very much. He just wasn't. And this is the other thing, like, this is towards the end when she sort of embraces that she's supposed to be a superhero, or embraces the idea of she wants to be more like Superman, you know. And even at that point, it's kind of like she's in between, right? Where she's just in between two different places, and I don't know if I don't know if it's purposefully written this way, but it's like she can't make up her mind of whether she wants to be really a superhero or not. I'm not sure. Especially how it ended. It's just like, I don't know, you know. I want to get to, I don't know if there's any more scenes of the film. I'm not sure. Now, you had Jason Momoa's character was funny. He didn't do very much in the film, but the moments that he was on screen, he had a really good presence about him. They did a really good job with the makeup and making him look like the character. The issue is the same, like, the humor was still crude. The tone was still brash. So his character didn't add to it as much as he could have, because it was in the same vein as everything else. But he did add a lot more liveliness or humor to the film when he was on screen. So and then some of those parts, he just made me laugh because it was just he took the Lobo character and he was like, I'm just gonna have complete fun with this, you know, and embrace how crazy this is, and he did that really well. But again, he just wasn't. He wasn't on screen enough to kind of liven up the whole tone of the film. So I was hoping to see more still shots of the actual film. Let's see if I can find him. Here we go. I'm looking for the co-star that was with her pretty much for the entire film. Here she is. I don't know what to do with her character, because from what I've heard, they took this story as inspiration from a graphic novel for Supergirl, and from what I've heard, she fit the character very well. But in tone, she was completely opposite from everything else in the film. And I think that was on purpose. It just was, I didn't know what to do with her character because it's like she's in the wrong movie, or she didn't fit at all. She was very she came across as very or overly educated. She came across as very wealthy, and she was walking into like a katina full of thieves and robbers and criminals. That's where they put her. So she's walking into bars. She's walking into all these dangerous scenarios, and she's coming across as she's trying to debate people, like she's in you know what I mean? Like she was completely out of place the entire time, and I didn't know what to do with her. And the crazy thing is that the people in the people around her in the film, including Supergirl, no one knew what to do with her. She was completely out of place. And the movie kind of made fun of the fact that she was out of place because they literally put her in like bubble wrap kind of. And that was kind of a running joke in the film. But I didn't know what to do with her character. I didn't know what to do with her character. The other thing is, okay, the sword that she's holding. I still don't know what's so special about these swords, because the bad guy, the villain, shows up at the beginning, and he's coming to her parents about these swords, and her parents give the villain the key, and they're like, take the sword, take the weapons or whatever you came for, and go. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh, these swords must be some type of weapon the villain is going to use to take over the world or something. And they never told us what the swords were for, what the weapons were for. Like what was the purpose of him going to this, this girl's house for these weapons? Like they never explained it. But this sword kept showing up during the film, and in the audience were like, what, like what's the special significance of these of this sword? Like, does it have any type of power? Like what does it do? They were literally fighting over this thing for much of the film, till the end part. She still had the sword, and we're waiting for something, right? But oh my gosh, like it was just, they didn't say anything about it. Didn't say anything about the swords. So I don't know why the villain got him in the first place. Now the villain, I've heard that some people were saying that he's very generic. I thought he was fine. I thought this was the villain. I thought the villain was fine. I didn't like him, so that's a good thing. You don't want the audience liking your villains. It's just that if you would ask me what his name is, I have no idea what his name is. I don't know. And the confusing part was Lobo shows up and he says there's a bounty on it was him as the main bad guy, and then there was a group of guys around him that were also villains. So I don't know if Lobo's contract was for the main villain or was for one of the side villains, because he tried to, I don't want to say arrest one of the side villains, but I don't know. I don't know what his name is. The other bad guy, I don't know what their names are. I just know that they're brigands. And oh my gosh. Um, I can tell you. I can tell you. But they kind of this they kind of left this open. So he goes and he gets the swords or weapons at the beginning of the film from the little girl's parents. We don't know what the swords are for or the weapons are for. We don't know if he's just selling them for money. Like we don't know. And then when so the villain kills the girl's parents. So the girl is like, I'm gonna go get my parents' sword back, or I'm gonna get their weapons back, and I'm gonna kill the villain. That was her whole mission, was revenge. This evil guy shows up at our house, he kills my family, I'm gonna get the sword back and avenge them. It just wasn't believable because practically during the entire film, she kept finding herself getting into trouble, and Supergirl had to save her. And then she would get in trouble again, and Supergirl would have to save her. And then she would get in trouble again, and Supergirl would have to save her. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like, I just, it got to the point, like, by the time we got to the middle of the film, Supergirl was basically telling her, stay here, don't get into anything, don't die, don't do anything rash. Of course, that didn't work. She would wander off and going on to the whole revenge thing, and I'm like, well, I don't know. It was bad, but as she's going after the villain, who like I said, I don't know what his name is. Come to find out, they chase him to a different planet, and their whole, and I'm not even joking about this part. The villains, the brigands, right? The group of bad guys, they were rounding up teenage girls. They were rounding up teenage girls so that they could procreate their own evil villain band, so that they could keep having kids to add to their band of villains. They were just going from planet to planet doing that. So even the folks sitting next to me, you can hear the audience like what like what's going on, because we're trying to figure out, okay, he has the swords, like the villain has the swords. We're wondering what he's going to do with the swords. And before they say anything else about the weapons, we find out that they're rounding up all these teenage girls so that they can procreate their evil band. So they get to their ship and they got all these teenage girls in cages. And it's just like, okay, I don't know what's going on anymore. I was like, what is going on? I don't know. I don't know. But here's the other part that threw me off. Okay, so Lobo shows up to get, like, he shows up again to get his bounty. Um, Gosh, I don't know if it's this one. Like, see, these are all the bad guys. They're on this planet and they're basically taking all the teenage girls and putting them all in these car things and beaming the cars up to their main ship. And I'm like, okay. So this is how you take the audience out of the film. Like, whenever you're telling these type, like, you go to the movies, you're telling the story, you never want to take the audience out of the story by presenting something that's so out of left field from where the story is going. That is like, okay, now you guys are like throwing stuff in here that I just don't like. Why are we going in this direction with the story? I don't know. But but anyway, so Lobo shows up, and this part of this still shot is from when the bad guys have left that planet, right? These guys, they've put all the teenage girls in here, and they're all beaming them up to the main ship, and they just leave, right? Lobo follows them from here because he's trying to snag one of these guys because there's a bounty on their head. And but Lobo is just trying to collect the money. He's trying to grab the guy, take him to whoever so that he can get paid. That's the only thing Lobo's doing. Okay. So he's not really in the whole saving the girls, or he doesn't care about the swords. He just wants the bounty. That's it. So that's the only reason he gets caught up with the main characters. But anyway, so he finds them again, and this is on a different planet. So they're on the main ship, and Lobo starts throwing grenades everywhere to the point where he's blowing up the ship's engines. He's blowing up everything. So at that point, I'm thinking, well, what about all the teenagers, the teenage girls in the ship? Like, what? It took them a while to realize that there's still all these girls in the ship, and the ship has crashed into the side of a cliff because Lobo is just like blowing everything up. So the ship can't stay hovering anymore, so it goes crashing down. So that part didn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I don't know. I wish there was a shot in here. Oh, and by the way, you see this brown texture or brown color tone? That's pretty much in the entire film, and it's odd. So that's why when Lobo shows up and he has this sort of a more lively personality, he lifts up the film, because the color tone of the film is just brown. Like it's brown, darn near. I don't want to say all the time, but a lot. So yeah, all of this stuff, like people notice all this stuff when we're taking in the story. Oh boy. Um yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot. And this is the other thing that happens is when Kara gets in trouble, Kara, which is Supergirl, when Kara gets in trouble, the only reason she's in trouble is because she's not on a planet with a yellow sun. If she was on a planet with a yellow sun, she wouldn't have gotten into danger the entire film. But she kept putting herself on planets that don't have a yellow sun. And when the planet doesn't have a yellow sun, she loses all her powers. And when she loses all her powers, she just gets beat up. Oh my gosh. Which on its face isn't a problem, but it just kept happening over and over and over and over. And it's like, oh my gosh, just stay on the planet with the yellows. It's like she doesn't even have to come back to Earth. She just has to get near a planet or a moon or something that has a yellow sun. And she gets all her powers back. Now, the way that they approached the story where she was off on these planets with different color suns, it added to the suspense and everything. Of course, since she was on like a planet with a red sun or whatever, she would get into danger and then the audience would be like, okay, how is she going to get out of this? But at the foundation of it, it's just like this person lacks common sense because she keeps putting herself in these situations. But then it also leans into the fact that she's just had her 23rd birthday and she's still struggling with her past, which at this point in the film with this scene, we didn't know what her past was. We just were thinking like, this girl is completely immature. She's irresponsible. I don't know. It was just bad. But even in scenes like this, you could tell like there was more depth to her because she knew a lot about other alien races and other planets and how other species and whatnot, how they worked and stuff like that. Like she had a lot of this knowledge and everything, but it was buried underneath her trying to recover from being drunk. And she was just wallowing in whatever in the world she was going through emotionally, which we didn't, at this particular time, we didn't know what that was. So what I'm hoping is that by the end of the film, okay, so by the end of the film, because these are the two that we are following, right? So this is Supergirl, and this is, gosh, I forgot this girl's name, Ruthie, which is she has the sword on her back. And even at this point in the film, it's like, what is this sword for? Like, does it have some type of magical powers? It's like we still don't know when the film ended. I don't know. Ruthie sees the potential in Kara, right? So she's trying to pull the good out of Kara, and Kara is like, I don't want to be bothered with you right now. So that kind of back and forth was okay, but again, Look at the film. Look at the color cast on the film. It's brown. It was just so like it was very mucky. Like the look of the film was just mucky. And you kept going from scene to scene to scene and it was just mucky. And so that affects how the audience views the movie at the same like it just affects how people view the film. It was just mucky so often. But once you get past that, you get to their conversation. I can see that sort of pull and tug back and forth. But it was just like Ruthie was out of place. Kara was not ready for the whole superhero thing. And they were going into these places where criminals usually hang out. It's just like, oh man, it was, I don't know. But like I said, towards the end of the film, it was better. Um, but this film now, granted, if you look at the color cast, it's still that brown, but it's not a gritty. It has a lot less grit to it. This is the best part of the movie. This is when she's on Krypton, and I think that's her dad here. Yeah, that's her dad, and then her mom is somewhere. I don't think she's in this shot, but she was old enough to know. So for Superman, like his character was sent off um, when when Kal-El was a baby. So Superman has no memory of Krypton whatsoever. Kara, on the other hand, grew up on Krypton, but they okay. Okay, so this is another huge spoiler, I guess. The Krypton was falling apart. Okay, and they went through the whole origin story of the planet is dying and it's going to implode, and they went through all of that. But right before the planet imploded, all of the rich people had a contingency, is that the right, am I saying it right, contingency plan, where they gathered into the center of the city, of this city, got into this force field. I'm not making, it's in the film, around this huge portion of the city, got into this force field, and the whole thing lifted out of the ground and they took off into the air. And as they took off into the air, the planet started imploding. So I'm not making this up. I haven't seen it, the story told this way before, but when they took off, right, just a section of the city took off, they went into outer space. Krypton ended up imploding, but they were able to survive in that section of the city that got rocketed into outer space, right? They were able to survive like that. So when Kal-El got, launched into space to go towards Earth, that was his brother. Let me see if I can. Yes. So Superman and Supergirl are cousins. So their dads are brothers. So he went eventually and borrowed his brother's technology to send Kara on the same trajectory to Earth, right? So why would Kara need to come to Earth? Kara needed to leave where she's at right now because she had, when Krypton imploded, she hadn't been born yet. But again, all these, the wealthy folks or the people who had high positions on Krypton, they got, they took off into space, took a portion of the city, went off into space. And they were just going to live there like that. So Kara was in her mom's womb. Like Kara's mom was pregnant with her when the planet imploded. So when Kara was born and she grew up into however old she is right here, she thought that life was just normal. She didn't know anything about the main planet not being there anymore. She just thought, oh, this is how people live in this cocoon, basically. And so she was fine. But a problem surfaced to where these folks that you see, all these folks back here, like everybody started getting sick. You know why everybody started getting sick? Is because when the portion of the city got sectioned off in that force field and broke off from the rest of the planet, they took the disease with them in the crust of the foundation of that portion of the city. So you have like all these buildings, right? On the surface, there was pieces of the planet attached still on the bottom. All of that down there that was attached on the bottom was kryptonite, or was infused with kryptonite. And the kryptonite has radiation. So the people that was in that cocoon, they started getting the radiation poisoning or kryptonite poisoning, and they started getting really sick. And then Kara's mom passed away, and then her dad got really sick. And then her dad told her that I'm going to end up, passing away and I'm going to end up dying. So he was like, before I go, I have to save you because you are a part of us and we need you to live on. So he found the plans of his brother and how his brother sent Kal-El to Earth. He was like, you're going to follow the same trajectory. And when you get to Earth, then Superman can help you adapt to Earth and show you how to use all your powers and all of that type stuff. It was sad. It was sad, and it was the best part of the film. And the crazy thing was, like, none of it was in English. They spoke in Kryptonian, so you can understand what they were saying. So everything was subtitles, but it was so good. It had so much depth to it, that it's like I wish we would have gotten more of that tone in the film. But then seeing this in the middle of the film, it helped us understand the beginning of the film and how Kara got the way that she was. And when we saw this flashback, she was actually explaining to Ruthie why she was the way that she was, and why her and Superman were so different, because Kara was saying that Kal-El sees the best in people and Kara sees, I guess the worst in people. Like, she's just cynical in a way. And it's because she grew up, she was happy, and then she found out what reality really was with, the planet, and then her parents died, and then all of the rest of the Kryptonians who had escaped Krypton, they ended up dying anyway. And so it was just her and Kal-El. And that was really sad. And like I said, I wish there was more of that. And because of how they ended the film, I think we're gonna get more of this in the next film. But that doesn't help the success of this film. I feel like in order for the SuperGirl film to be successful, they needed more of this in it. To help us know just more about Kara and where she came from, her personality, all that stuff. So we found out more about who she is in this flashback than we did the first 1/3 of the film. It was just like, what is going on with this girl? So I like I said, I don't think they. Obviously, it's more boring when you tell the story linear, like just here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. It's more interesting when you have these flashbacks and whatnot. But I think that because this is such a new character for so many people, it's better for them to explain sooner who she is and how she got to that point. So I would have done maybe 15, 20 minutes of saying this is Kara when she's just drunk, her life is a mess. The dog is using the bathroom darn near on the carpet in her on her ship. There's food all over the place, there's clothes all over the place, nothing's cleaned up. The first time Ruthie comes to talk to her, she's drunk, like Kara's drunk, and then Kara's like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. Kara goes, doesn't even close the door to the bathroom. She's just like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and we can hear her. We impartially see all this stuff. And I'm like, that's at the beginning of the film. That's like in the first, yeah, that's at the beginning of the film. Like they did all this stuff. It was just just completely opposite of this scene right here that you see. Complete opposite. So I feel like you had to get to this scene a lot sooner because of all those things that we saw in the first. It was too much. It was way over the top, crude humor, too much. So because they waited so long to get to a scene like this, how much of the audience did you lose? Because we were like, this is too much. It's too much. Oh goodness. But that's all I had to add. I don't want to go over an hour. It's just, oh my gosh. But see, here's the thing. Yes, Ruthie's character was out of place, but by the time they got to the end of the film and it was like, okay, is Ruthie gonna go to her aunt's and these two are finally gonna, we didn't want the two to split up. We wanted Ruthie to stay. We wanted Cara to keep protecting her and making sure she stayed out of trouble. We wanted the two to stay. So by the end of the film, it was just like, yeah, keep them together and they can work out their different personality thing, you know. They can work it out. But it's just it's tough. Like I don't know how many people are gonna sit through as much as you have to sit through to get to the end, to where it's like, okay, I'm used to these characters and I've, you know, how many people are you going to lose before you get to that point? That's my question. Okay, so this looks like a behind the scenes shot where she's getting direction from the director. But Millie's very good, right? I just she has more depth to her with this character. It's just that they didn't write it in the script that way. Like they didn't write it enough in this particular screenplay. And I wish they would have done that. Because when you lean on crude humor this as much as they did, it's so shallow that there is no depth to crude humor. There is no depth to brashness. Like you can only do that for so long. And then the audience has to put roots somewhere. So you have to give the character more depth. And it was just like every time they got to a point where she was getting more depth, they went right back to, we're going to do the whole brash, crude humor sort of thing. And it's like, no, just, you built a very good moment, stay within the seriousness of that moment, and they just didn't want to have the tone of the film that way. Why that is, I mean, like I said earlier, they wanted a character darn near opposite of a Superman type character to be the main character of this film. And I just was like, I'm just thinking, I don't know how well that's going to work. I think, like I said, as is, she's a very strong presence on film, but I do think you're going to lose some people with the way the script decided to present her, you know. And there's the red sun. But I don't know. You guys can leave me your thoughts on, like, if you saw the movie, if you're going to see the movie. Hopefully you've seen the movie already, because I've already given away, you know, chunks of it. Oh, here it is. This is what I was talking about. That's Krypton. And see this beam shooting up in the air? that's going to create a force field. And that force field is like a blade. So it's basically going to carve out a chunk of the city and propel it up into the air. So they carved out a good portion of the city, I guess the capital, and then it took off into the sky, and that's how they got away. But like I said, when they took some of the planet's crust, or part of the planet's core ended up going with them within this bubble, and the radiation from that is what started to infect the people that were inside the bubble. And it was very interesting because they basically gathered it, and it was like a short clips of this, but it looked like they basically gathered up all of the politicians and the scientists and the doctors and all of them. Like they gathered them all up together, and then all the common folk, they just left them out to die. And the people who were like the high class profile folks, they thought they had escaped, but ended up they hadn't escaped at all. They still ended up dying. So that was a clear lesson that I got from this. There was only one cringe moment in the film, which I'm gonna address now, before I go. And Ruthie and Cara were having a conversation. So Ruthie kept asking her like the differences between her cousin and Cara. So Ruthie was like, well, Kal-El is called Superman. Why are you called Supergirl? And she started going into this dialogue like, why is he referred to a man and you refer to a girl, but you're only 10 years younger? They started going down that path for like 30 seconds or so, and they cut off where she was going with it because she was going to continue to kind of drag this out. It was such a cringe moment, and it felt like the people making the film knew it was a cringe moment, because she started going into this dialogue when they were supposed to be in a crucial part of the story. Like they were supposed to be doing something important, right? And she went off on it. Turned into a tangent. Like she was going off on a tangent into something completely different. And I'm just sitting here thinking, please don't get off the rails. I'm not even saying it's not a valid point, right? I'm saying when you're telling the story, nothing can be more important than the story. If you decide to, it can be whatever particular moment, to stand up and say, I don't like this inequity, or I don't like this slight, or I don't like something, and it comes out of left field of what you're actually doing, then you pull the audience out of the story, and we're looking at it like what's going on, you know? And again, like I said, you can be completely right with the point that you're making. It's you have to make your point in a way that it doesn't feel like you're forcing it or it's contrived. It has to flow into the natural progression of the story. It can't be the story's flowing along and then you stand up and say, hey, I want to say this. Because then the audience kind of snaps out of what's going on and it's like, wait, what? It's like, do you want to talk about this right now? And again, Ruthie was going into that direction and then something like an explosion happened or something happened where it cut off the rest of what she was going to say. But that right there told me that the people making the film knew that wasn't the time to say something like that. It just wasn't the time to say. It's like if you want to throw that in and put that in the movie, okay, but not there. And they knew that was not the right time to bring that up. But it's like they couldn't help themselves. They was just like, I'm gonna make sure I fit this in here. And it's like, no, that's it's not helping. It's not helping. So it can be social issues, it can be politics, it can be anything. If you want to highlight a certain message in your film, you have to do it in a way that doesn't, and I'm not even saying don't have it in the film, it's just the way that you present it. You have to do it in a way that doesn't detract from the film. And I feel like just too often the people making the film don't know how to have the message that they want to say fit seamlessly into the flow of the story. And if they don't learn how to do that, you're going to lose too many people. The movie's not going to be successful, and the studios are not going to green light more of these types of films because the studios are basically looking at how much money's coming in. So again, the message is fine. If you want to put it in there, it has to be within the flow of the story. Otherwise, it's kind of like you're in the movie theater, right? You're getting to a really good part of the film, and then all of a sudden, people in the rows in front of you start standing up and talking to each other, and then they're on their phone, like looking at the phone, and they'll be like, wait, I gotta go here, and then I'll come right back. And it's like, the people behind them, the people around them, it's like, look, you guys need to sit down, do whatever you're interrupting. You're throwing the whole thing off, right? Which is why we have the whole thing in movies, like before the movie even starts, you turn your phone off or put like your phone on mute. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't want to be taken out of the experience of the film. And I feel like too often it's like the writers, producers, whoever, they had these messages, and again, it's nothing wrong with the message, it's just like they put it in the film in a way that it's like it's interrupting everything, and then people get annoyed because you interrupt. It's like you're interrupting the story. because you feel the need to say this, make sure that we know that you're saying this thing. Gosh, I don't know. But yeah, that's the only cringe moment in the film. That in the part at the beginning where Ruthie first meets her, and then she's like, I have to go to the restroom, and then that whole thing. So it was two cringy moments. But yeah, I think if you're gonna have especially a strong negative opinion on the movie, I would say, and you're gonna share that online, I would say watch the movie first. Like, just watch the movie. Don't go in there with preconceived whatever because of stuff you saw posted. Just watch the film, and then if you still don't like the film, fine, but you saw the film. You're just not saying, oh, the film is terrible and you didn't see it. But I think it's between 75 and 80 in terms of 75%, 80% positive. I think that's where it's going to land with the people who've actually watched the film. But yeah, that's leave your thoughts in the comments, feedback and everything, your take on it. But that's my impressions of the film. And again, I think the next one's Man of Tomorrow. It's going to be Supergirl and Superman going to be on Earth, and they're going to do the whole teaming up thing. I think that one's going to be better. I think Supergirl ended on a good note. I'm curious to see how they're going to blend their two different personalities together, because Kara is still edgy and Kal-El is still, she calls him nerdy. I don't know how they're going to blend it together, but I think that it can work. I think that both the actor for Superman, the actress for Supergirl, they cast the right people. It's just the way that they tell the story. They have to help out these actors. Like, you have to give them good dialogue. You have to give them a good plot, good storyline to really, give them more depth. I don't know if they're going to ease up on the brashness, the crude humor type stuff. But we'll see. All right. I've gone over time, so I see you guys on the next episode. Take care.